From Auckland University, somebody who's still got a surprised look on his face, Dr. Craig Heilmann joins us on the program. Craig, kia ora, good morning.
Kia ora, Andrew. Great to be with you, mate. Yes, I am surprised.
Yeah,
I've got to be honest, I am.
Before we go any further, did you want to weigh in on the gender debate? I mean, people have different opinions on this. Just wanting to give you the opportunity. How many genders do you see, Craig?
Well, I think there's only two. I'm with Professor Rata on this one, but I understand that there's a complexity. There are complexities around it, of course. With even the Bible knows about hermaphrodites, etc. So things are more complex, but nonetheless, we can't lie. Our genes don't lie. Men and women lie, but genes don't lie. And so Professor Rata put a lecture together. It was pretty straightforward. She said in the lecture, there's only two genders. I don't know whether she suspected she'd get in the hot water with the Equity Office, but she certainly did, and they wanted to take her down. But she stood her ground, and she gave us a moral witness of courage, conviction, what academics should do. You know, we should all be warned, by the way, Andrew. The last time I think this sort of stuff was tried was Nazi Germany, right? Where we had literally something called Deutsche Physik, German physics. They thought German physics was going to outdo Einstein because that was Jewish physics. Mm-hmm. So can you imagine a racialized science? That's part of the problem here, is that we're trying to imagine kind of gender science or racialized science rather than just science, just figuring out how God made the world and how it works. Well, that's how we see it as Christian. But we're just trying to get to the truth, right? We're just trying to get to the fact.
Now, let's, I suppose, unpack this a little bit more. The particular university professor, this is at Auckland University. Do you know the details? What was the subject that she was teaching on? Was gender an important part of this narrative?
No, I think it was just biology. I think it was honestly just a biological claim, and it was literally a science claim that there are two genders. And of course, then she got harassed by the equity people at the university, which is no surprise there. And her pushback is, look, we're doing science, we're not doing politics. Politics is something else. Debating these issues, the social issues, is one thing. Arguing about science is something else. So she's picking up for science. She's saying there is a way to settle this. 8 academics, by the way, came to her defense and said, look, our gametes, our biology tells a story here, and it tells a story of two genders, not more than two genders. And so that was the issue. Now, in fairness, the Equity Office backed off and said, okay, we're not going to drive you out of town. So we get that sort of perception of cancel culture. They're trying to shut it down. Sometimes with these things, Andrew, the process is the punishment. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily that anything happens to you, but it's the process you have to go through in defending yourself that's intended to silence people. It's intended to say, hey, if you make these kind of claims, we're going to make your life so difficult on a university campus. And look, dozens, hundreds, thousands of academics have been driven out of business for these sorts of issues. The fact is, our university campus are about 90% left-wing, right? So,
and yeah, I mean, this is why this seems to be going against the flow, as it were. There are academics in many different parts of the world, including Australia and Canada and the UK and many different places, that have literally lost their jobs for voicing the same opinion than has happened at Auckland University.
Except the High Court in England just a week or two back, as you and I both know, came out with a decision that said, hey, women are women, and women's public spaces need to be protected as public spaces for women, and men cannot masquerade as women. And so there seems to be a little bit of a swing back toward, I think we just call it common sense, shall we, and leave it at that. We don't need to make this part of the culture wars. Science should be allowed to be science without race or gender or these other issues being imported into it. We are talking about the basic facts of how the universe actually spins and how it works. There must be a way in a lot of cases to determine that. We know science doesn't know everything, but it knows a lot. And we need to, I think she's doing the right thing. Professor Rata is to be commended. I mean, what a courageous lady. Wonderful, inspirational to all citizens to say, don't get backed into a corner and bullied and pushed around. Stand up for what you know to be true. And she did that, and she came out swinging, and she won. Mm-hmm. But credit to the university too. Now, I don't have a lot of faith in any modern university. I went through enough of them not to have faith in them. But having said that, kudos to Auckland University. They did the right thing. They stood up for science and not politics. And it seems to me that's a win for everybody if Auckland University takes that.
And I think the Vice-Chancellor's publicly apologised as well, which again is
fantastic. Well, that takes a big person to do that.
Yeah. One thing that I wanted to talk about here is, I suppose, the broader issue, because, science is science, but at our universities we want to encourage critical thinking. We don't want everybody at our university to think the same thing. And honestly, Craig, I don't mind if within a university environment you've got one professor who thinks there are two genders, you've got another professor who thinks there might be 103, and both of them get to present their cases to the students who get to critically analyse the arguments for or against. University should be a place where there are no stupid questions, where there is a variety of different views, both morally, biologically, and also theologically.
Look, the truth is, mate, we make no progress in science, and we've made a lot of progress in science, but we don't make any until somebody challenges a reigning theory or reigning what Kuhn called paradigms. He even explained to us how paradigms shift, and they shift by the most arcane process, but it's usually because enough uncomfortable facts pile up that eventually even those highly committed to the existing theory go, nah, it doesn't work anymore, let's come up with a new theory. But scientists will hold to the old theory till they've got a new one that works better. And that's the way we've made progress in science. And so, look, there is a place for facts and argument and dispute and theorising. And you're right, there should be multiple views presented on things. If there are if we don't genuinely have a settled theory that is a reigning paradigm, then there should be umpteen views on display until we can find the best possible explanation for how this thing works, whether that's the gas laws or people's gender or whatever. We should be able to say, at this moment in time, this is the reigning paradigm which we use, but there are alternate uncomfortable facts that don't fit. Science has benefited us a lot if we've done it that way. When we make science political, in other words, we're trying to press social issues in the name of science. Now, it's interesting. Professor Rata, by the way, she says she's doing this in defense of critical science. She wants her students to think critically, and she doesn't think they'll think critically if they're politicized.
Do you think the same applies to theology? I mean, it seems to have been many, many years where you could go onto a university campus and say, hey, I believe in a God who created the universe, and not get laughed out of class. And certainly your tenure as a professor in any department apart from theology, for those that still exist, that there seems to be perhaps an accepted way of thinking when it comes to spiritual matters that gets laughed out of class at university. Perhaps we should have more open discussion and critical thinking in that area as well.
Yeah, I think we have to. I mean, look, I think theology is not its best friend in this case, because theology has gone in 100 different directions. It's like trying to herd cats today in terms of theology. So we're not a very disciplined in that sense. We lack that. Having said that, driving theology out of the university hasn't benefited the university either, because there's a whole subset of questions that no other discipline in the university answers. Social science tried to take the place of theology and failed. Science can't do what theology does, because science is about physical causation and a closed system, right, of laws. What happened to begin the universe, the creation itself, science can't answer. It can't even speak to it. When it tries to, it can only be lying. So, it's no longer science at that point, it's theology. So, look, we don't have another discipline to replace theology with that answers the big metaphysical questions about how things got going, not how the gas laws work today, but what puts those things into motion. We don't have an answer to that absent theology. So I think there's a place for theology in the modern university. I went through a major university in the US, Duke University. They call it the Harvard of the South, and theology is still allowed to exist there. And I studied it there, and ethics. And so there are places this is still done. Major English universities, Cambridge, Oxford, still allowed. So why we feel the need to drive them out? Well, usually what happens is we don't drive theology out, we just lump it into the religion department. So Christianity becomes another form of Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, etc. That's usually how we downgrade Christianity back into the mass, the mass of religious stuff. And then eventually the religion department gets axed as well.
In a similar category to French romantic poetry, perhaps. I mean, it's a curious little thing over in the corner here, but has no relevance to and I apologise to any French poetry graduates.
Bills, mate. It just doesn't pay the bills in a university. If you're not doing hard sciences, you just don't pay the bills.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, it's some interesting conversations and great to be talking about some good news about, not just public theology, but I suppose free speech at academic institutions. Craig, thank you for the work that you do. Thanks for joining us.
Bless you, mate. It's a win for us little people.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.